In this video, we're going to ask the question, how do we glorify God? It's a big question, but if we read John 15, 1 through 11, we can see Jesus gives us very clear insight into this. And he gives a long discourse, but if we look at just this text, we can see Jesus gives us many causes and effects, and we can find out, how do we glorify God? So what I want you to do is grab a piece of paper, make a T-chart, and let's do this together. So for an example, if we look in verse 2, it says, does not bear fruit. What happens to someone who does not bear fruit? He gets cut off. We see right after that, it says, if you bear fruit, you get pruned. So what I'd like you to do is to take some time on your own or with a group and read through this and fill in the causes and effects. So do that now. Okay, so now that you've done that, we can look at this together. So we have a list of all the causes and the effects, and there's many of them. And if we read it, we can see, okay, many different things. But our question is, how do we glorify God? So our end goal up here, God is glorified. How do we bring God glory? So we can follow the line. So follow me here. The effect is the Father gets glory if we bear much fruit. So I'll write that in here. Bear much fruit. And we can look here in the effects. Okay, the effect is bear more fruit. He prunes. So when we get pruned, we bear more fruit. And then we look a little further, he prunes, and the effects follow that, bear fruit, bears fruit. So when we bear fruit, we get pruned. Then we look for bears fruit over here. We see if we abide in Jesus. And we see that if we abide in Jesus, what's the effect? How do we abide in Jesus? If we keep his commands. Keep his commands. But we see there's more to it, right? We know if we keep his commands, this is how God gets glorified. This is how we abide in him. This is how we keep his commands, we abide in him, we bear fruit, pruned, bear much fruit, God is glorified. But if we look just a couple verses before this, in John 14, verse 13, we see that Jesus says, if you love me, you will keep my commands. So how do we have a heart that wants to keep his commands? Is we love Jesus. And this is in 14:13. But how do we have a heart to want to love Jesus? And we can just look a couple verses after this. Jesus says the greatest love is to lay your life down for your friends. And so we remember that Jesus has done this for us and that we are forgiven much. And we see that this is where it starts. This is in 15:13. So we see that this is where it starts, from remembering that we have been forgiven much. And if we do that, then we start to love Jesus. And how do we do that? By keeping his commands. And how do we And what happens after that? We abide in Jesus. We remain in him. We bear fruit. We're pruned. We bear much fruit, and God gets glory. So we see it starts from grace and it ends in glory. So this is how we glorify God.